We are Mike and Shauna, coming to explore, pay our respects. If you're here, we're sorry about what happened to the children. Welcome to Friday Night Ghost Frights, a series of real, true experiences with the paranormal and the supernatural. Ghost tales that will frighten you in the depths of the night. Local legends, filled with tall tales and supernatural wonder. How far down the rabbit hole is that grain of original truth? Some may not believe the things I'm about to describe, but I assure you that everything I'm about to tell you is absolutely true. It is up to you, dear viewer, as to whether you believe me or not. For decades, the legend of Gore Orphanage has haunted Lorain County, Ohio. As the story goes, in one of its many forms, the orphanage existed in the late 1800s until a fire suddenly burned it all to the ground, and none of the children inside survived. Old man Gore, who supposedly ran the orphanage, lost his license, and authorities never let another orphanage be built on the site again, leaving the ruins in the woods. Locals began telling tales that if you ventured out to the Gore Orphanage at night, that you could see ghostly images of the children playing amongst the trees, some of them even on fire. So goes the legend. In truth, the ruins of the building known as the Gore Orphanage was the Swift Mansion, built in 1840 by Joseph Swift. It was also known as Rosedale, and he eventually lost everything. It's a pretty good sized house if that's the footprint. That's pretty big. Said he spared no expense when he built it. The Wilbur family ended up buying the estate, and that's when the real tragedy happened. In the 1890s, during a diphtheria epidemic, all four of the Wilbur grandchildren died. It was the height of the spiritualism movement, and at that time the Wilbur family was thought to be very heavily involved with it. And so a number of stories came out of Rosedale talking about the Wilburs conducting seances in their mansion, trying to contact the souls of their deceased grandchildren. There were even rumors that Mrs. Wilbur actually cracked and acted as if the grandchildren were still there, setting places for them at the table and tucking them in at bed at night. From diphtheria. And the wife went a little nutty because of it. So, if there is anybody out here from the Swift or Wilbur family, we are Mike and Shauna. After the Wilburs passed away, the house sat vacant for many years, and tales of the supernatural began spreading. Even in the early 1900s, there are witness accounts of visits to the old haunted house by horse and buggy.
I think sometimes maybe spirits don't all, unless it's residual, I think it's like 50-50, you take a chance, because I think sometimes they'll be like, oh, who's this? And then other times they're like, wait a minute, I don't know this person, especially children.
The orphanage story comes into play with the name Gore Orphanage Road, but it was originally just Gore Road, the name for a wedge-shaped piece of land. The orphanage part was appended onto the name when the Orphanage of Light and Hope was eventually founded in the area. But this wasn't a new orphanage building on the site of the Swift Mansion. This was more of a land and building acquisition by John and Catherine Sprunger, who had moved from Indiana into the area to found the orphanage. While they owned the land where the Swift Mansion lies, they never did anything with it. Reverend John and Catherine eventually came under fire for abuse and neglect at the orphanage. And when John eventually died, Catherine moved away. The Swift Mansion did eventually burn down in 1923, but it wasn't filled with orphans. In fact, no one was inside. However, there are those that, even though they know the true story, have claimed to have seen ghostly apparitions of children playing in the woods near the ruins of the old Swift Mansion. Do the deaths of the Wilbur children still linger over the old Swift Mansion? Do the seances from 120 years ago still hold residual power? And does the truth of the Swift Mansion empower the legend of the Gore Orphanage? Thank you for watching Friday Night Ghost Frights. Please let us know what you think of our show in the comments below. And if you have not yet, please subscribe. I'm Mike Ricksecker. Until next Friday night.